See you too. If you would, please turn your mics on for the meeting and then make sure you're close enough to where you can be heard. Hey, you want to give him that? You can follow with this one. Hey, Don. Oh, that's that mine? That's mine? That's mine. I think that's mine. No, this is mine. Did you get it from me? I usually have these two. Or did you have it? Did you bring this? Oh, no, I just need that. No, no.
Oh, okay.
Charles Whitaker.
No, only,
Glenn, are these the new numbers here? Those are old numbers. You'll need to tell me what the new ones are and we'll fix it.
okay.
Yeah, you want to just email me or what? Oh, you did already? Okay. Yep, that's what I need. Sure is.
Take this off you.
Go right ahead.
Go right ahead.
I know, right? I know, right? Yeah.
Something. Gonna have the mayor
Don.
bang his gavel
All
at
right, ready?
him.
At this time, the mayor will call to order the regular city council meeting for 6 p.m. Tuesday, March 14th, 2023, in the city council chambers, 201 East Nash Street, Terrell, Texas. We have with us Grady Simpson, District 2, Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem for District 4, and Andrea Reese, District 5. At this time, Grady, would you please lead us in invocation, and if everyone would stand and remain standing for the pledge of the flags.
Yes, Mayor. May we bow our heads, please. Father God, we come once again giving you thanks for allowing us to be here. We thank you for watching our lives and our families, keeping us in good health. We thank and praise you for your protection. We ask that you would keep the citizens of Terrell. There are a lot of misfortunes happening throughout all of America. We ask that you would keep us here in Terrell, keep our county strong, and all the people throughout this great nation. All in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Okay, let me see what I can do now.
All right. Next on the agenda is Mayor, Council, Community Recognition and Events. I would like to recognize the school district. They are on spring break, but the GLA K-Kids class always takes care of the mayor and the council. They gave us some gifts, and we always appreciate them and their support of what we're doing here at the city. In addition to that, I want to let everybody know that I was at the Kaufman County Leadership Council. I'm the chairman of that group this year. It's consisted of mayors and judges from around the county, also school districts participate, EDC directors, and chamber presidents. So it's a good group. We had good turnout. County judge was there. Most of the commissioners were there. And we just get together and put the county first. Does anybody else have any community recognitions and/or events?
Mayor, while I know that there are other city council members on this dais that have known Ms. Loretta Gibson longer than I have, I want to acknowledge and ask for a moment of silence for her. She was a long time. I would have to look at the dates again to see what long time really means. But she's a long time community member and advocate, and I can share that from a council member perspective. She was quick to call if there was a concern, whether it was related to public service or parks or how to feed community members for Thanksgiving. So I'll keep my remarks short, and certainly in case there's others that want to share something as well.
So at this time, we'll take a moment of silence. Okay. Anyone else? No, good. All right. Our next item on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes. Discuss and consider the minutes from the regular city council meeting on March the 7th of 2023. Council, if you had a chance to review those minutes, is there a motion on item 6.1?
May I make a motion for the approval of minutes of regular city council meeting, March 7th, 2023?
Is there a second?
Second?
Is it District 5 or second? Okay, all right. We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to approve the minutes of the meeting of March 7th, 2023 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is item number 7.1. Conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding a zone change from light industrial to single-family residential 6, FS6, Lot 2A, and part of 1A, Block 507 on 1.47 acres, City Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, also known as 509 Runnels Street, Terrell, Texas. This is Amara Mata.
Mayor, Council, thank you for having me tonight. Before you, I have a zone change from light industrial to single family. If you look in your packet on page 12, there's a location map just to get everyone oriented. This is going to be over in the Stallings edition, right at the dead end of Runnels. It's kind of hard to see on the map, but there is a house right there with a driveway coming off of Runnels. The applicant came forward, and currently his house is zoned light industrial. He would like to change it as he is wanting to move forward with some home improvements and do some stuff on his property, which he cannot do under the current zoning. So we talked to him, advised that he gets a rezone. If you look on your packet on page 13, the current zoning map, it is zone light industrial. And then on page 14, the future land use map does call for it to be a new traditional neighborhood. So it is in line with your future land use map. And that staff does recommend approval. This went before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they did recommend approval by an 8-0 vote. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Mata?
Omaida, regarding the specific property, was there any additional information that the applicant submitted for the use of the home? I'm asking because I've had rumors about a potential, chicken farm coming in this regional area.
Yes, ma'am. From my knowledge, the only thing that I have been told by the property owner is that they just want to put a homestead. They've been living on this house for a couple of years, and they just wanted to rezone. I have had talk that they wanted to put a garage up, but to my knowledge, there's been nothing about a chicken farm or anything. So I can't confirm nor deny.
Okay, so they've already been living in the home. They just want to put a homestead on it, and to zone from light
To
industrial
my understanding, yes, ma'am.
SF6.
Anyone else questions for Ms. Mata?
So what was that second map with the trail? Oh, third map, yeah.
That one is our future land use map. The map itself, I was just trying to show you all the edification for the yellow being that it does call for it to be a neighborhood zoned area. The green trail, I can't really see the map, but it should identify something of a trail if I'm not mistaken.
So it says proposed greenbelt trail on it, and you have to remember, when you zoom in some of our maps, they get a little offset. I can tell you that that green line was probably meant to hit Stallings Park as opposed to go through that exact location right there. Of course, that's next to Stallings Park, right? So the idea from the park plan was you've got some greenway opportunities there to connect Stallings Park over to Kings Creek, floodplain sometime in the future. So let's say the Fairfield developer ever develops that into a park area, you'd want to put a trail through there. So that's what that green line was about.
All right, thank you, Amara. This is a public hearing, so at this time, we will open the public hearing to receive comments regarding a zone change from light industrial to single-family residential SF6. Is there anyone to speak on this matter? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing and move on to item 7.2. Greg, would you read into the record?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we bring to you tonight ordinance number 2960, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, amending Appendix 2 zoning ordinance of the City of Terrell by changing the zoning classification on certain real property, more particularly described as lots 1A and 2A, Block 507, Stallings addition to the City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, containing 1.47 acres of land, 64,076 square feet, and also known as 509 Runnels Street, Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, more particularly described in meets and bounds and Exhibit A attached here to and made a part hereof for all purposes from light industrial, LI, to single family 6, SF6, providing for severability and providing an effective date, ZC 23-01. This comes to you tonight on first reading.
Thank you, Greg. Is there a motion on item 7.1?
Motion to approve ordinance number 2960 as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a second. We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to approve ordinance number 2960. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 7.3. Greg?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, we will conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding a specific use permit to allow a hotel and event center on a property currently zoned as retail. The property is approximately 8.6 acres of land that is out of the John C. Hale Survey, abstract number 202, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. The property is located on the northeast corner of Sage Hill Parkway and Independence Parkway, SUP 23-01.
Okay. Mata.
Mayor, council, before you, I have a specific use permit to allow the hotel and event center on the property zone as retail. If you look at your packets on page 23, you can see the area that's outlined there in the red. This is a piece of property that we are talking about. The use here is going to be allowed for a hotel in retail. And if you look on page 31 of your packet, this is going to be the hotel site plan that's going to be attached to the ordinance in order for this to go through. The specific use permit, just some concepts that is highlighted in here. I know it's kind of hard to see on your screen there. This is going to be a room count minimum of 120 rooms. It is going to have a full-service restaurant in there. It is going to be made up of a meeting room, minimum 20,000 square feet, and then a central ballroom of 12,000 square feet, minimum as well. The actual hotel will have an outdoor space and a pool deck. And there's going to be parking spaces for the hotel and the conference center. If you look at the concept plan in front of you, the white area, that's going to be the 5-story hotel space. And then the area shaded orange is going to be kind of a lobby type area with rooms that you can walk around in. And the little gray area in between the orange is going to be that ballroom area in there. The parking, entrance, all of that has been done. And then we do have the 8 letters were sent out. No letters have been returned in favor or opposing, and staff does recommend approval of the specific use permit with this concept plan as an exhibit. What that means is the developer can come forward. They will have to do a full construction plat on the property, final plat, all of that fun stuff. But this is giving them the actual use to move forward with it. This went before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they did recommend approval of the SUP by an 8-0 vote. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Ms. Bonner, so this is the public hearing, and then we'll have an opportunity to speak on it. The next item is 7.4. So at this time, we will open up the public hearing to receive comments regarding the specific use permit to allow a hotel and event center on property currently zoned retail. Is there anyone here to speak for or against? If you would, please come to the mic and your name and address, please.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Ron Natinsky. I'm the hotel developer. This past, I guess it was last week, 8-0 through the P&Z. I'm just here, obviously I am in favor, and I'm here in case any questions come up. Be glad to, answer them for you. Otherwise, look forward to taking the next step, get this project brought to reality.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
So this is the public hearing portion, so if the next item, if we want to hear from him, we will. Anyone else? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing and move on to item 7.4. Greg?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we bring to you tonight ordinance number 2956, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, granting a specific use permit under the provisions of Section 31B, Appendix 2, zoning ordinance of the City of Terrell, allowing an exception to the provisions of Section 26, Appendix 2, zoning ordinance of the City of Terrell for certain property more particularly described as 8.6 acres of land out of the John C. Hale Survey, abstract number 202, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, being located on the northeast corner of Sage Hill Parkway and Independence Parkway, according to the concept plan attached hereto as Exhibit A, and under the terms and conditions specified in Exhibit B, both of which are made a part hereof for all purposes by permitting a hotel and event center to be constructed on said property currently zoned as Retail R, providing for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date, SUP 23-01. This comes to you tonight on first reading.
So again, council, this was a 8-0 vote by our P&Z. You did hear from Ms. Mata, and you also heard from Rod Natinsky. Would anybody care for any more information?
Is it Rod? Ron.
Just a moment. Would you please come to the podium, please?
Ron, thank you for being here with us today. So the proposed hotel tower is 5 stories, and Anne, from what the image I'm looking at regarding the meeting conference center space, is that 1 story?
Well, it's a tall 1-story, yeah. I mean, the ballrooms and meeting rooms and so forth they're higher than this somewhat, but basically a 1-story structure that surrounds a 5-story hotel tower.
Okay, and that's 1 central meeting space with breakout rooms and other smaller conference rooms.
Right. On the exhibit that you have up there, the orange and the gray comprise the 20,000 square foot conference and event center, and then within that there are rooms and movable walls and kinds of things that you normally see in a conference center. And the white rectangle right there, that is the tower that contains the hotel rooms. There is also a full-service restaurant to serve the hotel and also to serve the conference meeting space.
Thank you.
I'll just add in for reference that if you're wondering kind of exactly how to eyeball where this is where the large mound of dirt is that's out there now. So if you want to kind of pretend you're on the 4th floor, you can walk up there and walk up on top of the hill. That's how you can visually identify where we're talking about.
We wanted you to have a visual out there.
That's right, yeah.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
For our community members that can afford the space, will they be able to lease some of this, not lease, but have venues at this, have some events at this venue if they can afford the space to rent? It's going to be open to the public or whoever wants to?
Yes, if there are, recognized community organizations that want to have meetings, be it a neighborhood group or whatever, we'll have arrangements to have them use those rooms, and it won't be a matter of affordability. It'll be, we'll let them use it as a community service.
Oh, really? Okay.
But if you'd like to pay, we'll have a contribution box. Now, obviously, there's got to be some, some kind of, controls around that, but yes, ma'am.
As also, is this, the restaurant, that's open to the general public as well, right?
Yes, the restaurant is open to hotel guests and specifically with an entrance from the general public. We envision it as being the place that people that live in Terrell, business lunches, evenings, whatever, want to go.
That's a great job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
What's the capacity of the ballroom? How many people can?
It depends on how you set it up. I believe, and I'm just pulling off the top of my head, I believe when you seat it for dinner, in round tables, I think it has the capacity for 750 people.
That's the math we've been using, so yeah. He got that right off the top of his head.
That's the only thing left of the top of my head right now.
Well, what we hope to accomplish here is that Terrell will be the center of conventions for Kaufman County and the surrounding counties, the venue of choice, we hope. So, thank you, Ron. We appreciate it very much. Anybody else have any
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
and to kind of follow up on that, in a conference center, it depends how you set it up as to how many people you can have. I believe the maximum capacity is like 1,200, if you do it in a luncheon style or other ways. But we've designed it with a lot of flexibility and, in place so that it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's got the ability to fit, the needs of Terrell and the surrounding areas.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else? All right. Is there a motion on item 7.4, ordinance number 2956?
Yes, Mayor. Motion to approve ordinance 2956.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Andrew Reese, District 5, to approve ordinance number 2956. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item is 7.5. Mr. Shumpert?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, item 7.5, to conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding a planned development retail PD-R base zoning on 10.9 acres of land, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. The property is located south of Crossroads Parkway and west of Independence Parkway. The property will be a multifamily development, PD-2302.
Ms. Mata?
Mayor, council, before you, we have a planned development, PDR-based zoning on about 10.9 acres. If you look at page 36 of your packet, that location map will get us oriented. So at the top of your map, you have Spur 557, that big roof there, right underneath it, that's going to be the dealership that just opened. And then at the top of the red area on the part closest to the dealership, that's going to be where Crossroads is going to extend. That is the pond down here at the bottom of your map with that hotel area down there at the bottom. So we are out there in Crossroads. And this is a planned development for a multi-family development. This is a new development, and the applicant did want me to tell you, Mr. Lindsay, he wanted to be here tonight, but he is on spring break with his kids, and he just wanted to make sure that I let you guys know. The actual development is going to have a few conditions proposed. It's going to be a little bit different under the development standards that we normally have for multifamily, and they are attached in your packet on page 45. I am going to highlight a couple of different things that are in there. The development has height and area regulations. There are some landscaping standards as well as exterior construction standards. One of the main differences here is going to be the minimum square footage of each room. So you're going to have your efficiency being at 425 square feet. Your one bedroom is going to be at 550 square feet. Your two bedroom is going to be at 900 square feet. And again, these are all minimums, so they're not going to all be this, but that is the minimum that we have set here. If this plan development does go through, the next step is going to be a full construction plat, and a full final plat. So we still are kind of working through this. If you look at page 49 of your packet, there is a site plan there that kind of outlines how those buildings and parking are going to sit. So at the top you can see you have Crossroads Parkway. On the right-hand side, you'll see Independence Parkway going there, and then the Ventures Phase 2 apartments are just on the right-hand side of that Independence Parkway. One thing that I do want to point out, kind of there in the middle, there is an area that's kind of shaded. That's going to be where the offices are. So that's going to be their amenity / office area. And then right behind it, near the wetlands area, it's going to be a pool deck. If you go to the next page, they'll show you some elevations there. So you can see kind of in the middle, they're kind of hiding their office in between all of the other apartments. So it's kind of a cool little concept. And then that third floor is going to be apartments as well. The next page will show you, again, at the top, you'll see that shaded area where it says club leasing space with the apartments that it's going to be above it. And then we got a cool little rendering there of the pool, the outdoor space, the pool deck, and then some grills that are going to be out there. And we did send out some letters for this. I haven't received any back in favor or opposing, but staff does recommend approval of this as submitted with the conditions and exhibits. This went before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they did recommend approval of the plan development by an 8-0 vote. And I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all may have.
So this one would be, again, the public hearing portion of it. So if you will open up the public hearing, then on the next item, we'll have you up, okay? This is a public hearing. This time we will open up the public hearing to receive comments, if any, from the public regarding the plan development, retail, PDR, base zoning. Is there anyone here to speak for or against? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Move on to item 7.6, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we bring to you tonight ordinance number 2959. And before reading it, I must point out there is an error in the heading that I will point out to the council that we have already detected and corrected, which will be corrected before the second reading, but I will go ahead and present it now. An ordinance of the City of Terrell, City Council of the City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, providing for the creation of a plan development PD-R under the provisions of Section 31A, Appendix 2, zoning ordinance of the City of Terrell, on certain real property located south of Crossroads Parkway and west of Independence Parkway, consisting of 10.9 acres of land out of the John C. Hale Survey, abstract number 202, Kaufman County, Texas, and more particularly described by meets and bounds on the plat and legal description attached hereto as Exhibit A, and made a part hereof for all purposes from not light industrial but retail R to PD-R, under the terms and conditions specified in Exhibits B, C, D, and E, copies of which are attached hereto and made a part hereof for all purposes, providing for severability, providing an effective date, PD-23-02. This does come to you tonight on first reading, and again, we apologize for the typographical error, but it has been corrected.
Thank you. Again, this is Ms. Mata. She gave the presentation earlier. Does anybody have any further questions or have any questions for Ms. Mata in regards to this?
Thank you, Ms. Mata, and this is for Ms. Mata or City Manager Mike Sims. I noticed in the proposed development that the parking spaces are 9 by 18 minimum. My question is, is this standard the same as the standards that we have in place for the development next door? And if they're not, what is the difference in the dimensions?
Steve, you know, or, you,
I'm going to tell you that's not a, go ahead, Steve.
we think it's close or similar to the parking that's there. Okay. Okay.
It's-
I know the parking places that we just did over by in Blue, and that area right over there, all 18 feet, so it's pretty standard.
So what I've seen at the development next door, because it is our newest apartment complex, and I believe it should be the same developer, the same owner, is that when we have large trucks that are parking, especially along directly in front of the apartments, when they park in front, or maybe they have they park the back of the truck towards the sidewalk, then you end up with a sidewalk that's being blocked. And I know we've talked about, in general, housing, single-family housing, to try to avoid that as much as possible has been my feedback in the past, and we'll say District 5's predecessor as well. And so that's the concern that I have, and I would advocate for looking at those larger or longer spaces for parking that's directly in front of the apartments that have that sidewalk there to provide continuity and walkability for our community members and those visiting the apartments.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. That's something we'll go back and look at.
So for the councilwoman, it's the bed of the truck, I think is what you're looking for, right?
Well, I mean,
The bed of
sometimes
the
you
truck.
have large
With the gate, with the
vehicles.
tailgate?
Sometimes you have large vehicles at the front of the truck will also impede.
No, I'm just picking at you. No, those are good questions, but here's what I would say is that when you have an apartment complex, based on how many units you have, then you have to meet the criteria of the parking. So, are they oversized? I would bet not. I bet you that they took just the number that would work based on the units that they're providing in the apartment complex. That's just a guess of mine, but we'll have staff look at it and get back with you. Those are good questions, though. And I do want to say, hey, Ms. Bonner, I'm very impressed. You stepped up to the plate this week and handled all of the reports to the council. You've done very well. Does anybody have any more questions for Ms. Mata?
Can I clarify your parking issue also just a little bit more here? Again, it's hard to read because it's kind of the fine print here, but there's 471 total parking places. And so you've got, I believe, 160 of those in garages and 160 of those in carports. So the garages will have a slightly different dimension to them. They'll be a little bit larger. And your carport also will be a different opportunity. So, minimum isn't average, right? So there'll be other places out there that might have a little bit more space than that. But we can always keep an eye on that topic for you. Yeah, and that brings up something I also wanted to clarify. So just talking about ownership, Magnolia 1 is venture, Magnolia 2 is venture. This is a different company called Westwood. Westwood's done most of their development up in the Colony, Denton, McKinney, Plano area, and then they've identified coming here for another round of apartments. So that's their different owner in this particular case.
All right. Does anybody have any more questions, Ms. Mata?
Have they proposed how many number of units they're gonna have?
There is a minimum in the development standards. Let me find it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, 300.
Did they specify how many of each unit? Are they able to just kind of put it together as long as it's 300? Do we have an idea of how many efficiency versus, one bedroom, two bedroom, or?
Not to my knowledge, no ma'am, that's something that they will provide when they do the full plans on the property.
The final plating.
Will you re-explain what you talked about, the differences to the standards of the minimum square footage? I didn't get that. Can you review that again, please?
So on your development standards, on page 45, we have the development standards there. So everything that is going to be established in this as part of this ordinance is going to be what's in effect for the planned development. Anything that's not mentioned in here goes back to just our normal multifamily standards. So in here, they have the minimum floor area per the dwelling unit, their efficiency being 425. For a one bedroom, it's gonna be a 550 square feet per unit. Two bedroom is gonna be 900 square feet. And then any additional bedroom over two bedrooms does require a 200 square foot additional. And again, those are minimums. They don't all work out to be exactly those numbers. So depending on how they lay them out and work it out is gonna be what they do. Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else?
Do we have any idea of what the range for renting is gonna be?
I do not know, but I can definitely ask and find out for you. Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Okay, is there thank you, Ms. Mata. This one is a discuss and consider. This is ordinance number 2959. Again, as our legal counsel has indicated, the changes that were made to this prior to us taking a vote on. You want to repeat those?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, in the current heading, we're showing it, the changes from light industrial LI to single family 6, SF6. Correctly, it should be from retail R to planned development R, PD R.
So that is the vote that will be taken on ordinance
Yes,
number 2959. Okay, is there a motion on item ordinance number 2959?
Yes, Mayor. Motion to approve ordinance 2959.
Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to approve ordinance 2959. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 8.1, discuss Animal Advisory Board appointments. This is Ms. Dawn Stahl.
Mayor and council, we've recently passed ordinance number 2955, which added one member to the Animal Control Shelter Advisory Committee. And there are applications attached in your packet, and I can identify what each person would be as far as that board goes. The first one is Elena Balmeres. She would be the licensed vet. Gwendolyn Kynes would represent the Animal Welfare Organization. Cindy Hunter would be the Terrell citizen, which would be the fifth member that we added to that board. Omira Mata would be the municipal employee. Sherry Harmon would be the representative regarding animal shelter operation. And those are the proposed 5 members for that board, and it will be brought back for action next week.
Again, this is discussion. This is for,
Yes.
this falls under Grady
This falls
Simpson.
under Grady, yes.
Councilman Simpson, will you be prepared next week to make a motion?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 8.2. Mr. Shumpert.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we bring to you tonight resolution number 2064, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Terrell creating and appointing an impact fee capital improvement advisory committee to consist of the City Planning and Zoning Commission and one additional member appointed by the City Council, and setting forth the functions and the duties thereof, and advising the City Council on updates to the city's impact fee program for water, wastewater, and roadways, and providing for an effective date in compliance with the impact fee statutes found in Chapter 395 of the Texas Local Government Code.
All right, thank you, Greg. This will be handled by our city engineer, Chris Snap.
Council, mayor, city manager, come for you, back to you for final resolution of 2064. Under chapter 395, we talked about last week. This is relative to the impact fees of which you will be involved with. Impact fees that you'll get involved with with assessing and determining what that is. But as part of that, this is actually a resolution to appoint a position to the P&Z. This will be a P&Z meeting committee with +1. And as we talked about last week, this +1 has some criteria to that. This individual has to be living within the ETJ. And second of all, it narrows it down where this individual has to have some real estate and development and building industry experience or similar related fields. So we talked about an individual last week. What I'd like to do is tonight just to approve the resolution, and then next week we'll present the individual that we just talked about. I haven't received anyone else, so I'm still open for suggestions.
Yeah, I think I have one, but we'll visit with later.
Okay.
Okay.
So for tonight, I bring for you for consideration and approval of this resolution.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on chapter 395 or resolution 2064 for Mr. Snap? Thank you, Chris. Next, this is a discuss and consider. So is there a motion on resolution 2064?
Motion to approve resolution number 2064.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Prim District 3, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to approve resolution number 2064. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 9.1. Discuss and consider amendment number 1 to the professional service agreement with RJN for the June Heresy water main replacements. Again, this is our city engineer, Chris Snap.
Council, mayor, city manager, bring back for final approval. This is the amendment to the professional services for RJN engineering concerning the June Heresy water main replacement. Back in November of 2020, you approved for the agreement for the engineering services of $210,094 to get the design to the 90th percentile of completion. And this amendment to that brings back for $69,325 for the final 10% of engineering and construction services and oversight throughout the project, and including the bid process, all those type services. So this project is, you heard from Terrence of RGN last week, and this cost is roughly going to be around $1.5 million as part of the funded 2023A at $10.8 million that we already have the CO on. So I'll have any questions.
Okay. No, this is a District 4 initiative, and also this is a not to exceed number 69325. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that's with the company of RJN
Engineering.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Snap? Okay, thank you. Is there a motion on item 9.1?
Make a motion to approve the amendment for the professional services agreement with RJN for the June Heresy water main replacement, to include all the things as presented.
Okay,
Not to exceed the amount of $69,325.
we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 4, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to approve the amendment number 1 for the professional services in an amount not to exceed $69,325 with RJN. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda. We're gonna, there's no, Shelley Wallace isn't out here.
She's on her way.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to item 10.2, come back to item 10.1 if there's no objection from council. Hearing none, we'll do so. We're gonna discuss 2023 street maintenance projects. Mr. Glenn Caldwell.
Mr. Mayor, Council, it's always a blessing to come before you. I've got a short presentation for you this afternoon. I think it'll be a lot of fun, so.
All right.
All right. So looking in front of you there, you've got FY23 pressure paving program. Next slide, please. Oh, it's working? Oh, okay, great.
This is 2023, man, you control.
All right, love it. Okay, so short version. Remember our streets, our goal is to sustain and maintain our existing streets conditions. So we keep good streets good. As you can see, we've got from excellent to poor. We do not want to fall in that category of below 40% of the life of a street. We want to keep it above 40%. So we keep our streets in good quality. That means 70%. I'm sorry, 70% is that key number. 70% or higher, we want to sustain our streets and maintain them in that, at that level. Okay, this is a map that you probably can't see very well, but that's an overall map of the city, and it identifies all of our streets that range from a 1 through a 5. Next slide. More of a fun slide for you. We were able to identify 21 streets. Our goal is to spend every dime council, city manager provided to us this year. We've got 21 streets again identified, approximately 4.28 miles. And we'll move to the next slide. Well, we'll work from this slide. So the particular slide there on your left with the map, there's a link that you can go on to the City of Terrell website and blow this map up and see more thorough the locations and identify the points that we're going to be addressing for FY23. Okay, one of the goals here is to take advantage of a sole source process. So I'm going down to the fourth bullet point because I kind of talked about the other items you guys know about. Nexco is our consultant that worked with us, that collected the data and analyzed it. Obviously, the City of Terrell staff had plenty of input. We intend to address the streets that have sound base structure. So if the street is not sound, we will not pressure pave that particular street. There's a two-step process. It's seal and surface with an added riding course. It's somewhat like a micro surface. And the previous year, we thickened that particular process, and I think it was a success in doing that. We anticipate the timeline of 30 to 45 days to complete the construction. We are going to, hopefully, if we can do this, if I can say this correctly, we would like to add with this a owner allowance to address additional streets selected by City Council as we can afford. So that doesn't mean that we can identify a street and do a quarter of a mile or half mile or 2 mile, just a teeny bit, depending on what the prices come back on the 21 streets that we're going to do. So please do not take that as though we're saying, come back to us with the list of streets, and we're going to add those in the allowance if there's any funds available. Now, we're going to ask council within the next 2 weeks or so, please go out to your districts and somewhat point out some of those, short locations that we can consider for those funds that we feel like we may have available at the end of the project. Okay? Next steps, we're hoping that council will approve the sole source contract. As you can recall, that company's called Donaldson Construction Company, LLC. We will continue our blade and grade process, and we will address pavement collapses. So we'll be out in the field quite a bit the next couple of weeks identifying locations that are not suitable for pressure pave, and we're going to address those before they arrive, as well as blade and grade, and we will do our normal herbicide prior to those guys pressure paving our streets. So keep the vegetation out of our pavement. We will hopefully come back to you in the next few weeks with everything pulled together so that you guys can do a discuss and consider on selecting and approving the streets and locations. One other thing I want to add is, as soon as that's done, we want to come back to you and present to you other opportunities that we can add to this particular process. Identify street signs, sidewalk quantities, things of that nature. We're going to look forward to trying to incorporate that in this particular process as well. And I'll open up for any questions.
Glenn, I know you anticipate 30 to 35 days to complete. Are you targeting a begin date for these projects?
Yes, our goal is to address or get the contract on the ground prior to June.
Okay, so.
That's our goal, or June at minimum.
All right, so council, if you would review the 2023 street maintenance program list, pay particular attention to those that are in your district. And then, as Glenn has said, if there's an area that you would like for us to visit and see if we can include that, then we'll do all we can to see if we can make that happen. There's no guarantee. It all depends on the funding. But if there's some change that you would like, let's get that to Glenn and staff as quick as possible so that they can review it. If you wanted to do a switch out, we don't need to micromanage him, but maybe there's some place that he's not aware of that we may be aware of in our district. So, does anybody have any?
Mayor, can I tag in here to the end of Glenn's presentation? If you go back to the map with the beautiful, there you go. So remember that one of the pieces of feedback that we had last time Glenn brought you this map was the question of, gosh, what can we do to address the red lines on this map? Those are the ones that are too far gone to pressure pave, right? You wouldn't pressure pave anything red on this map because that's the wrong kind of treatment. So the question was, what can we do and what will staff recommend related to streets that are red on this map? So keep that in mind, and then let's go to that last PowerPoint slide here. So you're going to see Glenn again. We love Glenn, and whenever he comes forward to do his strategic plan presentation for FY24, FY25, FY26, what you're going to hear is that we really are trying to develop a list to do some debt financing on a limited collection of capital improvements, and that might be gravel streets, failed streets, recently annexed streets. Everybody up here can think of an example in their district about, hey, you know, I've got this street and it just seems like it's so far gone, we really need to do something. And I will use the example that we did with Temple, right? We all knew that Temple wasn't going to need minor repairs. Temple needed just a major complete rework. We needed to get concrete out there. So what we're looking for is places where we can do more major work. And I'm working with Jason Hughes right now on what's our ability and what can we afford related to the amount of debt that we would be able to propose. So we are working on a completely separate issue that's outside of the maintenance program to come forward and say, hey, in the FY24, 25, 26 program, we really need to have a debt issuance that will be attacking some of those red streets on the map. So by all means, if you see one or you have one in mind, you can go ahead and get that to me, get that to Glenn so we can get that under consideration as well. But we're trying to look at that detailed topic of, well, which of those red streets can we, do we need to avoid because maybe a developer is going to rebuild that street soon. Maybe there's an opportunity to get a county bond program on it. Maybe there's an opportunity to maybe we have to hold off due to a water and sewer improvement that might happen sometime in the future. So there's all sorts of reasons why we might cull through some of the ones on the red list, but we'll work on that and we'll try to give you a recommendation on how to move forward on those in Glenn's strategic plan presentation. I just want to make that clear. Glenn's trying to work here on the ones that are getting a little bit bad, getting a little bit raggedy, and can be saved with pressure paving and preserved for a multi-year period with pressure paving. That's what we're using our annual pay-as-you-go present money with, right? So that's your general fund budget that Glenn just presented. This is more what would we do with major capital borrowing. So anyhow, wanted to tag that on to the end of the presentation to clarify the difference between the two.
And you know what, I think it's a good position to be in for the city to have those streets identified, and then let's see what the market does before we jump in there. We don't need to be borrowing money at the high end, so, you know, caution there. We want to be in, if they drop, then we're all in, so just FYI. But you need to be ready, and we'll address that when it comes back, yes. Anyone else?
Dawn,
Yes.
could you go to page 97? Please.
Oh.
It's the
Oh,
one
you-
that says 2023 street maintenance program list.
The one that-
Same as the PowerPoint slide with the 1.1 million on it. There you go.
Oh, yeah. That's it. When you look at the second one, the New Hope Street, this is in District 2. What
Okay.
does that mean by no name when you say the start?
We also use the term, a lot of times it's a street that hasn't been identified as an actual name. So when the consultant went out, they could not identify
The name.
the name of the street. So a lot of times they'll use a program that doesn't have the actual name of the street. But that street, there is actually, if memory serves me, that street does have a name. So it's been addressed.
Can I just offer to you that I believe that's where that street dead ends at Breezy Hill.
We call it terminus in some instances. We'll go from terminus. It's usually the term we use.
For the entire street?
Yeah.
It goes to Crenshaw. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we had, when we talked about this previously, we were told to go out and look at the streets that we have on this list and kind of give feedback. And I just wanted to see how is that going to fit in with all this? Because one of the things I use is prioritizing on this is what streets are the busiest, that have the highest traffic flow. So how do we need to try to meet with you, or what's the best way to kind of communicate on those things?
Feel free to give the city manager a call, or you can give me a call. Catch me on my cell if you like, but I'll be available. So just give us a call.
Okay, thanks.
And we'll meet you out on site if you need us to.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Glenn, so I have a couple of comments/questions here. So if I heard you correctly, the goal here is to address as soon as possible those 5 or red sections or roads like Bryn Street, like Kings Creek Street, Adelaide Street. So if I heard you correctly, that's what the goal is here, right? And we're going to move fast and furious to do that.
Of course not. Not on those. No, ma'am.
Of course, that's my goal, and it sounds like I do see where there's information included on the action plans for streets ranking of 5 and looking at updating the capital improvement plan, and I certainly won't wait till we start having the strategic planning sessions to rename those streets again that I would like to be considered by my fellow council members for capital improvements. And I'll say them again: Kings Creek, Bryn, Adelaide. I feel like I'm missing one more sections of those roads specifically. But in all, shifting here to pressure pavement, and might beat me to the question. So I understand that anything that's not a 5, that's not in red, are the areas that we can look at to potentially add. We're not talking, maybe a whole block per se, but smaller sections of those blocks to that owner's allowance where we could do work at.
I would say that would definitely fall into that category. If you find a street that's a 5 that has a very small spot repair, we're willing to consider taking those on. Even currently, we're actively addressing those as we speak. So the goal is to probably address some of those 5s that are in that condition because they're probably not very passable. So we're trying to capture some of those in some of the funds that you provided to us early in the year.
Thank you, and I'm gonna name three areas, and I will definitely follow up with an email to you and Mike here. So Bethlehem, where it intersects with Ruby. I see Bethlehem is on the list. I'm looking to see what we could do with that corner of Bethlehem and Ruby. I've been out there before, and the feedback from community, at least a community member, is that, and I saw it with my own eyes as well, is that there tends to be water that collects at that corner. So I'd love to see that, see how we can address that as we're working on the pressure paving. And then moving one block over at the corner of New Hope and Crenshaw, right in front or in the middle of addresses 601 and 603 New Hope Street, there is a square pavement collapse. Maybe it's 4 by 2 feet. I'm going to guess there. There's a pavement collapse there, and I would love for us to be able to address that pavement collapse and then extend. Bethlehem stops just a few feet in front of that intersection. So I'd love if we can address that pavement collapse and then extend the work that we're already doing on Bethlehem.
Can I make sure that I'm following you correctly? Are you describing a pavement collapse at between 604 and 603 New Hope?
601 and 603 New Hope.
Got it.
And then I have one more that may be a little bit, may require a little bit more work due to the drainage. Corner of 1000 East High Street, there's a pavement collapse, and then there is an, what do you call it? It's like that corner has like a curb and gutter there, right on that section. And then my question, my final question here is, you mentioned the contractor's name, and it seems like this is the same contractor we used last time, and if so, I'm assuming we were happy with that contractor, and that's why we want to use them again.
If council approved, this would be their 3rd year.
3rd year.
Yes, ma'am.
I would just say for any council person, a great way to help us out on this, and frankly, I think this was a comment that Councilwoman Thomas gave us last time around related to Town North. We want to do more, and we've programmed a little bit more into this effort to fix a pavement collapse repair. So the example that you're providing, we don't want to just pressure pave over a pavement collapse repair. We want to fix our pavement collapse repair, and that will usually help you with drainage whenever you do that. So Glenn is definitely attentive to the idea of, gosh, wherever there's a pavement collapse on anything on this list, we're going to go grab that, get that fixed, and then pressure pave over that pavement collapse repair, so you've got a consistent ride over the whole thing. And that's a little bit of a different approach than we've done in the past. We're trying to make sure we always do all of the all of the pavement collapse repairs, and I think that's a great innovation.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, just real quickly, Mayor. Just, I guess for the benefit of our citizens, I just want to say this is when it comes to major projects that we do here in the city, particularly what we're doing with our streets. I mean, there's so many moving parts involved with making a decision to do these things. It takes time. I remember back in 2018 in this very room, Mr. Caldwell, you remember this, you're probably going to chuckle. You know what I'm going to say. But I courageously, shouted out the number $1 million for our streets. I think Steve probably laughed at me a good part too. He's not here. But Glenn, very famously said, he said, Mr. Councilman, it's going to be about $1 million just for the maintenance. And I said, well, prove it. Well, he met me at the Excel Center the next morning and pulled out all the books, and there it was. And the maintenance budget actually says $1.1 million. I don't know if you knew that from your own studies or you just said it off the top of your head. No. That's where we are. But I do want to say, too, that I'm incredibly proud, of how far we come, since 2018. And I must say this, too. I do know when Mayor Kimona, came on as mayor, he spearheaded this effort and us moving forward, with the streets. and I definitely want to thank you for that. But I'm really proud of our streets. I was born and raised in this town, and seeing where it's come in 5 years has been pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Next.
I like what Grady was saying, because I've had, over the last 2 weeks, I've had several citizens tell me, you know, hey, the road crew's out here fixing this, and they fixed that, and, you know, they've just been very excited to see some movement on things. I mean, we've got a long way to go, but you guys have been doing a great job.
Thank you so much, council.
Yeah, and I want to commend you guys. I did a ride along with the city manager, and I've already seen some work in my district, so we appreciate that.
Thank you, council.
All right.
And I will say, it's never enough, but we're gonna give you all we have. We're gonna give you all we have.
All right, thank you, Glenn. Next on the agenda, we're going to go back up to 10.1. This is discuss financial report, and we have Ms. Shelley Wallace with us. If you'd come forward.
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. Today, or tonight, I'm going to present the December 31st, 2023 financials for the city. We're going to start with the general fund. And just to note, we are approximately a third of the way through the fiscal year. So probably about 35% of the way through the fiscal year. So kind of use that as a benchmark. So the revenues, we are slightly above in revenues this month, driven mainly by the property tax collections, franchise fees, and a slight bump in the city sales tax. Expenditure-wise, we are pretty much on par with where we are in the fiscal year on expenditures. So we expect those to be pretty consistent as they have been through the first third of the year. Next slide. The Water and Sewer Utility Fund also looks very similar to revenue collections for the general fund, as we are at 39%, which is slightly above where we are in the fiscal year. We are also in line with budgeted expenditures, as we are 27% expended through this point in the fiscal year. Airport Fund. Airport Fund, we are above expected revenues by about 13 to 15%, as we are slightly above in expenditures at this point in the year. We don't have any information regarding decreased revenue, so I'm going to say we are pretty consistent in where we want to be, although we are slightly above. However, these things will start to even out as we get closer to the end of the year in terms of transfers in, leases, as they stay pretty fixed throughout the fiscal year. Next slide. Our tourism fund. So our tourism fund consists basically of our hotel occupancy tax revenues. As you see, we are consistent with budget as compared to where we are in this fiscal year. We are well below budgeted expenditures, although we do expect to incur those expenditures closer to the second half of the fiscal year. Our airport capital fund, we are almost 75% collected in revenues. However, we are slightly above our budgeted expenditures for the year, and that has been driven mainly by airport building repairs. However, we will be executing a budget amendment in order to fund that line, which will actually bring those year-to-date expenditures down for below the 101% that you currently see. Our vehicle and equipment replacement fund, again, we are consistent with budgeted revenues compared to where we are in the fiscal year, and the same still holds true with the budgeted expenditures. Our utility capital reserve fund.
Bless you.
We are consistent with budget in revenue collection. However, we are slightly above our total expenditures compared to where we are in the fiscal year. We do have some line items that are not yet funded, and they will be through the budget amendment process. Bless you. Our stormwater utility fund. We are consistent with budgeted revenues through this point in the fiscal year and slightly under-collected in expenditures at 20%. As you can see, we still have some expenditures or projects that have yet to be initiated, and we will probably see those begin to pick up again, probably closer to the second half of the fiscal year. Our capital improvement fund, again, consistent with budgeted revenues and expenditures as compared to where we are in this point in the fiscal year. Our impact fee fund, we are severely undercollected at 2% of revenues, 2% of budgeted revenues, and also consistently under expended at this point in the year. We have some transfers that have been put on hold, and I will follow back up with you as to the reason that those are being put on hold. The roadway fees, east and west, are undercollected, and I need to do some investigation as to find out why we are undercollected at this point in the fiscal year. Our parkland dedication fund, we are undercollected in revenues at 12%, although we are about a third of the way through the fiscal year. However, we are consistent at, compared to budget as to where we are with total expenditures. Our self-insurance fund, we are consistent with the revenue collection. Also, we are undercollected in expenditures, and that is mainly due to a lag in claims payments. We did meet with the vendor, and Mr. Sims and I worked through that with the vendor about how the method of payment that the vendor was expecting as compared to how the city was going to pay them. So we worked that out, and you should see the additional claims expenditures increased probably either in around the April financial presentation. So our interest in sinking fund number 1 is the fund that we pay one of the funds we pay debt out of. As you can see, we are collected mainly through transfer in more than 50% of projected or budgeted revenues, and showing only 5% in expenditures. And that is due to the fact that we don't pay our debt. We pay debt service in February and August of each year. So you will see increased expenditures that will be more consistent with budget and where we are in the fiscal year during the February presentation for financials. And the same will hold true for interest in sinking fund number 2. And our public-private partnership, we are undercollected in our revenues as compared to where we are at this point in the fiscal year. However, we are consistent with budget as to where we are in the fiscal year on expenditures. Our Power Center Fund, we have yet to collect revenues or expend any funds from the Power Center Fund, as the majority of their revenue is derived from tax collections. And those start to peak around our February and March financials. Our tiers number 1 increment financing, again, the same holds true. We have collections that will begin to peak for the tiers area in the February and March collection periods, as well as the expenditures are undercollected. The expenditures are less than budgeted at this point in the fiscal year. Our market center PIDs, they have started to collect revenues through tax collection and through transfers in. We are over collected slightly compared to where we are in the fiscal year. We will probably have a smaller bump when we report for February and a little bit for March. Our expenditures are consistent or slightly under our budgeted expenditures at this point in the year. Crossroads PID, the same holds true. Through transfers in for revenues and our tax collections through the PID assessment, we are slightly over collected. That is going to level off as we proceed through the tax collection period. Our expenditures are slightly above budgeted amounts compared to where we are in the fiscal year. Crossroads Northwest PID, the same holds true. We are slightly over collected, mainly due through transfers in and the Crossroads PID assessment or tax collection. We are exceeding our budgeted revenues by about 15% at this point in the year, and we have yet to expend any funds in the areas of expenditures at this point in the fiscal year. And the same will hold true for the 9th Street Maintenance PID. Our collections are mainly through tax collection and the transfers in from the Stormwater Fund. And the same holds true for the 9th Street Capital PID. Through transfers in from the Stormwater Fund and the PID assessment through tax collection, we are consistent with budgeted revenues for this point in the fiscal year. And Paddock, our Parks and Downtown Improvement Corporation, revenues are consistent, mainly derived from a portion of the sales tax collected, and we are well under budgeted expenditures. However, there are several projects, as you can see, that have not yet began. And that will complete the Finance Department's presentation of the January 31st, 2023 financials. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Wallace on the financials? So, yes.
I'm gonna scroll, see if I can find my page numbers again. So page 76, thank you, Shelley, for presenting. On page 76 should be the Utility Capital Reserve Fund. Shelley, let me know when you're there. So on the Utility Capital Reserve Fund, Shelley, you indicated that there are items that are unfunded and we should see a proposed amendment for those unfunded items. Can you point out which items specifically you were addressing?
Okay, so oftentimes when you see and when you're looking at these budgets or looking at the budgeted column, when you have a lot of times when we have expenditures and no budget, we'll usually do a budget amendment. For the two that you see, so the community development block grant for design for the Blanche project, those were expenditures that were from the prior fiscal year that rolled over into the current year and therefore weren't budgeted. So we will have to put through a budget amendment in order to fund that line.
Okay, I notated that one and that makes sense. Thank you. I can follow you on that.
You're welcome.
Was that the only item?
So the same holds true. So there's two North Blanche. One is for the water main, a little bit about halfway through the page. So that 11,000 will budget amend.
The Boone Street, is that one?
I'm sorry?
You mind if I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. What Shelley said is correct. Last year, for the fiscal year, we had budgeted something a year before. And then when we were working on this year's budget, for for the CDBG project on North Blanche and the water project and the Boone Street. Those are the three main culprits, I'll call it, that we had projected expenses that would be paid last fiscal year when we were preparing this budget, and then contractors either, there was some delays in invoicing or approvals or their schedule. And so when we budgeted this year, we said, okay, this is the total project cost. This is how much we'll need. And then the invoices didn't come in by the end of September in order to pay last year. And so we didn't spend the money last fiscal year. And we ended up having this carryover cost that wasn't budgeted, like Shelley mentioned. And so the net cost didn't change. We didn't overrun the project budget other than what was approved on anything. It's just that the cash flow changed from one fiscal year to the other, and that's why the budget
You can see that most directly when you look at the Boone Street project, where it says actual is 505, and then the budget's 350.
Yes.
That's an example of what Shelley and Mike are explaining.
Yes.
Well, we can't make those contractors submit invoices. Is there anything that we could do differently this year to pressure them to submit those invoices for the correct fiscal year that we had planned for?
Well, one of the things that I observed in the prior years was that what we do is we liquidate all purchase orders at the end of a fiscal year. So what happens is the money that is tied to that purchase order reverts back into the fund as cash. And so once the purchase order is closed, all we can do is roll those expenses into next year's budget or pay those expenses out of the next year's budget, run through the budget amendment in order to fund the line. So I think we could probably research and, for some alternatives. I know there is another way to do it, and that is to just roll the purchase orders from the prior year over into the fiscal year, but I think that's more of something that we would need to bring to council and involves a little more complex and changes to the way we kind of operate.
I would just offer also that it's also a goal that I wouldn't want to impose perfection on that process, and the reason is I would want the engineering department in August to be able to say, hey, you did that wrong. We're not paying that invoice because you need to tear that out and you need to fix that. So there's always going to be things that are real world field things that happen in August and September that change the timing of a invoice that might come into us. So while we're mindful of the idea that we need to make sure that we don't, create an accounting problem, we don't want to create a gap in our budget, we don't want to create a problem. But remember, if you had the money budgeted last year, that just meant that more money rolled over into your fund balance. So you have fund balance available because by definition you didn't spend that portion of money last year. So I don't want to. I'm happy for Shelley to do everything in the world to make the budget as clear and transparent as possible. I think that's a great goal. But I don't want to damage our ability to work with a contractor on site and do a amendment or delay or whatever. We may have a safety issue where Atmos tells us to stop working for 30 days because they need to do something, in which case we might not have spent as much in one fiscal year as we did on the other one. So I just want to be cautious about how much perfection we can achieve.
Thank you for the reminder about the unused funds that do roll over and then create an additional funds to your next year's budget. So impact fee fund, which is on agenda page 79. Shelley, you mentioned that we are undercollected in the east and west impact fees. Is there, are there reasons that we should keep in mind to why that might be? Is it, two things come to mind. Is it that they're just not paying into the funds once the homes or or commercial properties are being built, therefore they're not going into, that's why we're not seeing them into the funds, or could it be that because we've, in developers' agreements have said, well, we won't have you pay into the impact fee fund because we're diverting funds into maybe a park project, that's why we are seeing a lower balance in impact fees funds?
So building permits are where we collect impact fees, and so by definition, everything you said is sort of spot on. If I have a bunch of building permits pulled in an area that has a development agreement for no impact fees, or if I have those, fewer building permits happen over a period of time, and yes, they do get routed sometime to specific projects. So I wouldn't say necessarily that you look at this and say, wow, we may be collecting larger impact fees as we get into March, April, May, June, July, August, right? Because it has to do with when I'm pulling the permit, right? If I pull a permit in November, then I may sit on it for a while because I can't build until May, So those are always going to be fluctuating during the year. So we can certainly take a look at it. I think that we built those off of looking at FY22, and so we can give you a little analysis of that as well.
I would be interested in an analysis, because as a council member, I want to be mindful as we are, discussing agreements with developers, and if I continue to give away my impact fees, that means I'll have less money for, correct me if I'm wrong here, Shelley or Mike, then those impact fees can typically be used for like sewer, drainage projects around the community.
Yeah, road, water, sewer, not so much drainage unless the drainage is attached to a roadway project. I would say that the other occasion where you might not collect a fee is going to be associated with something like, let's say a developer goes in and is building a road that's on our thoroughfare plan. Well, by definition, and by the rule that is embedded in our impact fee ordinance, which mirrors state law, so we're following state law when we do this, if I'm the developer and I build an improvement that is identified on the thoroughfare plan and was a cost that was identified in our capital improvement plan, then that's going to be a impact fee credit. So it's not that we didn't get a road, it's they built a road for us, and therefore they didn't have to pay an impact fee. And so that's going to happen from time to time. In fact, on the senior living development that you guys saw recently at the corner of Windsor and Rose Hill, that's exactly what's going to happen there. They're going to end up building Windsor and receiving an impact fee credit for that because they need to deliver Windsor just to make their development viable. So that will be, by definition or by state law, a waived impact fee, or credited impact fee, I should say.
Appreciate the detailed information, and once again, I'll say to my fellow council members on the dais that I will be watching and would like us to be more mindful of when we're giving away those impact fees, right? When we're negotiating and we're looking to give a little, to get a little more in a different area, that it could mean less impact fees towards some of those road, water, sewer projects that our existing neighborhoods may need addressing. And that I give that same feedback regarding like the park fees. Well, I know we budget for parks, in a separate fund, and we have parkland dedication fees. I also want us to be mindful of, as a council member, I want to be mindful of my existing neighborhoods and the needs that they have as we're looking, over this year and planning for the next year's budget on how much we essentially give away or divert fees.
So to be clear for the councilwoman, we don't give away, we negotiate.
Negotiate.
There you go.
We're not going to give away any
negotiation.
money. And so thank you for that clarification, Mayor. And I do have one last question, and this one should be brief. Under the Public-Private Partnership Fund, and I'm trying to find it here, Shelley, I think 84. I saw that we budgeted $45,000 for building demolition, and we have expensed a little over 134,000. I'm wondering, what in the world did we demolish, and was it more than one structure?
I'm going to have to unless Chris wants to give me some input now, that's mostly been under some work that Raylan has been working on, and we can come back next week and give you a report on that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Town square related type items.
You said town square related, and that's under public partnership fund, which we could not use funds for to demolish maybe a home that was in much despair in a neighborhood. Is that correct? I wouldn't be able to use the funds for that?
Yeah, we have a different demolition budget in the general fund that we would use for that. This is more specialty related demolition projects, so. Yeah, and I will also say that we also use building demolition to cover, let's say we have a private developer we're working with who is scheduled to abate asbestos inside of a building. Well, that's where we would, first come to council, ask permission for that agreement, and then if council approved that agreement, this line item would be used for that purpose. So building demolition includes ripping out asbestos in the interior when you're trying to save the building, and that drives some of these expenses as well.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Appreciate you, your patience to answer all of those.
Anyone else?
I just want to tell Shelley thank you, because she's, working shorthanded, and she's just I think you're doing an incredible job, because that's not easy to keep all of that going when you don't have enough staff.
We're working on it. And can I just leave the council with one more update? So in our last update, we did bring in a consultant. We will have our second consultant that we have acquired through SGR. She will begin on Monday. Her primary focus is going to be the audit and some budget preparation. So we look forward to having Ms. Lee join our team.
Ms. Wallace, you did a very good job presenting for your first time.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. All right.
Mayor, you missed Ms. Shelley Wallace when I was in the mayor's seat a couple weeks ago, and she did a great job. She did a great job then, too.
Order.
His first time for my
Calling
first
the mayor
time.
out. Hold on. All right. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Next item on the agenda is item 10.3, discuss Police Department Animal Control Strategic Plan Update. This is Police Chief Ken McKean and Assistant Police Chief Arlie Sanson. Well, I guess the chief's going to handle it.
Yeah, and Mayor,
I'm reading off of notes.
Yeah, so Mayor, I just want to give you the shortest little intro to say, so recall last week we talked about our overall schedule. So my apologies. We're going to work hard over the next few weeks, because essentially what we're doing is, instead of having a day-long strategic plan retreat or a 2-day strategic plan retreat, we're really just adding in at a series of council meetings different bits and pieces of your strategic plan for FY24, FY25, FY26. So all of this starts now with the police and animal control presentation. It goes all the way through that schedule I showed you, where we end up voting on this in January. So it's a little easier to consume the information with the folks on the front end. You get Ken McKean, Shane LaCroix as your first two presentations, and then a whole bunch after that. You've got time to think about everything that we're talking about tonight, because you end up voting on this a lot later. But it's good to have the discussion, and I really appreciate the department heads taking the time to do this for us, and I appreciate council working on this. I know that it's a time-consuming process, but it really helps staff to have a good 3-year plan to work through, and it's great guidance to get policy direction from the council and know, okay, this is our battle plan. So thank council for that, and I'll hand it over to Ken.
Mayor, council, before I get into the next 3 years, what command staff and myself feel are going to be important items, I want to revisit the last 3 years. some of the strategic goals we set and where we are with those. So let me see if I can get this going in the right direction. I can. All right, so the first one is strengthening communications in-house. That was a goal set. It's been completed. Weekly staff meetings, shift report briefings, and agency and outside agencies. Encourage staff communications, feedback, and policy review. I'll go through these rather quickly. If you have a question and you want to stop me, that's fine. Implementation of cutting-edge technology is ongoing. We came to you with a grant for a FARO unit, which we got, and it is a digital crime scene and crash investigation unit, which will allow us to map major crashes in a much more efficient and quick manner. It will also allow us to map crime scenes that might be indoor. It's a unit you can set up, and it'll scan the entire room and pinpoint evidence and everything in there where you don't have to sit there and make a actual scale drawing yourself. LPR through Vigilant, we had installed those. Those are license plate readers. 2 of our patrol cars have those units on them right now and have been working over the last year. Flock camera is a system that we started looking at. We have 1 camera installed in Stallings, and we are expanding with an additional camera there once we get the location firmed with some construction out there. We did upgrade our rifle technology just recently from our current patrol rifles. We were able to trade them in and get new short barrel rifles with red dot sights and some lighting on it that gives us low light capability. We didn't have that in the past, so now we have that. Tech improvements in-house with our CAD and CID in admin. Number 3, partnership with community include efforts such as Citizens Police Academy. On March 23rd, we'll have our 3rd Citizens Police Academy. We have an active alumni association. And I believe we have about 29 graduates, I think. Some of them we may know here. The 4th goal was add narcotics officer. That's pending. We are 1 short of being full to our 44. We have 3 in academy coming out, so we'll be able to transfer into narcotics here probably in the next 6 months or so to fulfill that goal. Add operations remote operated pole cams. That's a technology deal. We received 2 pole cams last year, and we have deployed them covertly. They're not permanent mounts. You move them around where you need them, and we have used those for watching narcotics transactions and helping make narcotics cases. The next 3 years, 24, 25, and 26, 7 goals that we think are going to be important. Succession planning, recruiting for diversity, community relations, de-escalation and training, fleet, our K-9 program, and additional flock safety expansion. So let's start with succession planning. I guess I should move this, shouldn't I? Okay. On page 4, that was our current structure, organizational chart prior to October. We did change it with the addition of a assistant chief or deputy chief and restructured it. There was a reason for that, which I'll go on to the next one. So in 2024, the department will need to prepare for my retirement, which I plan on leaving in January of 24, unless somebody talks me out of it, and I don't think they will be able to, so you can try. So the department will need to be looking at an interim chief to manage the department during the chief selection process, like you did when I was selected. That can take several months, but we need to prepare for that. During the same 3-year strategic plan, the department expects retirements of 3 lieutenants, 5 patrolmen, and 3 civilians. That's 258 years of experience. That's difficult for an agency to deal with, so there are going to be some challenges with that. This is the current structure, organizational, with the deputy chief. The next is recruitment, and I'm going to let Deputy Chief Sansom address some of these things. So I'm going to hand off to him, and then we'll kind of go back and forth.
As you may recall, not too long ago, I presented a number of strategies that we were going to implement that we thought would be successful to help us do more recruiting. If you'll remember, the Terrell Police Department has authorized 73 employees, including both sworn and civilian members. Which way does it go? Okay. We're authorized 44. That excludes the chief. We are very fortunate in the fact that we have 3 in the police academy, and they'll be graduating April the 14th of this year, so we'll be able to get those plugged right into our training program. That leaves us with 2 vacancies, but there's good news. Tiffany Key, who recently left the department for another agency, has asked to be reinstated. She falls within all the guidelines for reinstatement, so we've already got that approved through Human Resources, and she'll be starting also on April 14th. So we got 1 to go, so that's the good news. That goes a little bit to the credit of the process that we followed as far as using these recruiting tactics. You know, we did a lot of research on what worked, what didn't work, good ideas. Some ideas were made and we tried them. We're moving in the right direction. So let's do a little comparison here for our police exam. If we look at the results from the February exam this year, 21 people signed up to take the exam, 17 people actually showed up, 13 people passed the written exam, 12 people passed the physical agility. If you compare that to the test just previous to that, we had a little bit higher number in the 24 that signed up. 14 people actually showed up, 11 people passed the written exam, and only 6 people passed the physical agility. So you can see the important number is, what did we get in a qualified applicant? Well, we had 12, so that's an improvement. The good news also with that is that that leaves us with 12 viable candidates to fill 1 position. So that puts us in pretty good shape there. We managed to grab 3 out of 6 last time. So if you look at those numbers, that's an improvement. So our strategies are working. One of the things that we thought was important, and I discussed that with you, we felt like that the applicant of today wants more contact. They want a hug. They want to feel like they're wanted. They want to feel like that you're pursuing them. And so we implemented a process where they have at least 4 contacts with not always the same person. And I even included myself in that. We felt like that if somebody from the command structure calls them, that's going to mean something to them. They're going to feel like, hey, these people are they're after me. They want me to be a part of their organization. And so that, I think, had a lot to do with the numbers that we got, because people, they feel like they're wanted, and that's a desirable quality. We continued with our recruitment survey, just for the breakdown and for y'all's purposes. Of the people that actually completed the process, 1 came from a city website, 3 from Facebook, 3 from friend referrals, 1 from a city employee referral, 3 from Indeed, 2 from a job fair, and 4 did not respond. So as you can see, we're running about the same numbers. We did pick up a couple. We did attend 2 job fairs. That got us 2 applicants, so we can't throw that out the window. It got us an applicant, so we're going to continue to do that. We already have 2 scheduled over the next 2 months. We missed 1 tomorrow because they didn't give us enough notice, and all 4 of our volunteers were unavailable, and we just didn't have anybody to fill that slide. It's important to us to be representative of the people that we serve. And so one of the things that I noticed about this particular cycle is it was the most diverse group that we've ever had get through the entire process. In this particular case, we had 6 white male applicants, 2 black male applicants, 4 Hispanic male applicants, and 1 white female applicant. Those numbers are not usually fared out that way, so this was a lot better. So it shows us that our strategies are not only working just to get applicants, but they're reaching a wide variety of applicants, which is what we're looking to serve. We did make that 1 change to the physical requirements for the female push-ups. That was successful. Unfortunately, the 1 applicant that was female didn't have the core strength to complete the sit-ups, so she was eliminated in the background process. We just wanted to throw this at you. As I said, it's important to the agency, it's important to the community that the members that are serving represent the community. So you'll kind of see how we're doing. We've got some improvements to make in those, to level those numbers out. But this just gives you a breakdown of the sworn staff, the civilian staff, and then the overall numbers. So you can see we're doing pretty good in a couple areas, but we got some room to grow. But that's part of the strategy. We're trying to reach out to an applicant that is going to be qualified, that is going to be representative of the people that they're serving in their own community. In our civilian service, the good news is that all the positions are full except for communications. Dispatch communications is authorized 11. We now have 4 openings. 2 are in the process. I am pleased to report I gave a conditional offer yesterday, so that means that we're pretty sure that that's going to work out. So we'll probably be able to hire at least one of those 2. We haven't gotten to the second portion of her process yet. We did recently change our written policy to include a lateral transfer for dispatch. That's something that we absolutely had to do. I don't know if you pay attention to the news, but the Sheriff's Department is offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus for members that have experience. Well, we certainly couldn't offer that at this point without, some further discussion, but we did have the ability to bring them in at a higher pay grade. So if someone has 2 years experience, they come to our scale, they look at what a 2-year experienced person, we could bring them in at that starting pay. So that's a recent change to our own policy, and I think it'll be successful. I believe it'll do us some good in that regard. As far as our recruiting efforts, we felt like we didn't have enough outward expression. We needed more people out there doing the chase. So we've out for volunteers, and we were very fortunate in the fact that we have 2 of our sworn staff, both Hispanic males, volunteered immediately, and they were the 2 that initiated the first job fair that we attended, which led to a second one. We have our communications lieutenant, Mary Hager, volunteered to serve, and our background investigator that kind of falls within her purview anyway, and so she was willing to serve that, and she's a Hispanic female. So we have several people that are representative of the organization and the community that are reaching out, trying to find those kinds of applicants. The good news is, once again, is that Tiffany Key is coming back. She was already very actively involved in our program. We're going to plug her right back in just as soon as we get her settled. So. Expansion. Once we reach the 44, Mr. Sims has promised us that he is going to deliver 2 a year, every year for the next 5. That's great. We appreciate it very much. We're going to need more than that. Those are good numbers. Those are good starting numbers, but look around. Look how fast we're growing. We have got to be able to keep up with what's happening, and I don't know that 10 is going to get us there, So we need to be thinking about the future expansion of
I just want to underline that by saying a real simple thing. For several years, it was easy to look at the city and say, hey, the number one budget thing that we've just got to fix is to program the right dollar amount for street maintenance every year. And council kind of went with a strategy there, and we made tough decisions, and we made that happen. Last year, we spent a lot of time talking about can just our pay levels be more respectable. I think we did a lot there to get our pay levels more respectable. But I think this is a very important thing to underline. We've had a lot of success in this community, which we will ruin if we don't keep pace with making sure that we're ahead of crime as opposed to being behind. So we have got to, we've got to make this line on this PowerPoint a real strong commitment. And I will just commit to you, we talked about this more than once. If we're going to grow at the rate that we think we're going to grow, 2 per year is going to be the minimum.
Yes, sir.
And we'll just keep analyzing this. When we get to our FY24 budget, you can expect me to make the top recommendation that I've got is to cram 2 new officers into the budget. And I just want to kind of flag that as there's very little else that we're going to just pause and say, this isn't a want to, this is a have to. So anyway, I'll just pause there and kind of underline that point.
Along those same lines, it's important to note that as we add the 2, we've already got plans for those people. We've got a commitment to further grow our narcotics division. So we're going to get those 2, and then they're gone. So the number in patrol didn't get bigger. So it's really important to wrap your heads around that one is that we have to expand in all areas, but we got to grow our patrol staff. Those guys have been at 24, 10 years? close to 10 years. That number hasn't changed in the patrol division. So, keep that in mind. It's important that we grow in all areas, and we can't just keep stealing them from patrol. Every time we get 2 more, we say, okay, now we can expand here, and that's good, and it's needed, but you can't just keep robbing them from patrol because those are the guys that are busting the calls out here. So wrap your head around that. We also need to get a commitment to expand our civilian staff. The jail staff is going to need to grow as well. The bigger the city, the bigger the crime, the bigger the population in the jail is going to be. So you're going to need additional people to manage that. We're going to be asking for at least 2 more. That'll bring us to a total of 10. Once again, we're full at staff right now, but we're going to need to expand that. Dispatch, once again, we're not there. We're having trouble bringing those applicants in now, but we're going to ask to give us 2 more. That'll bring us to a total of 13. So there's going to be a lot of staff increase requests, but it's not willy-nilly. We really need those things. We try to bring to you what we actually have to get by, and I think that's what we're going to need to be able to get there. I just want to remind you, these are the same tactics that I told you we were going to deploy, and I've already given you a little bit of a success rate, so I won't take the time to read each one, but I do want to bring focus to 2. Number 3, go online. We have greatly increased our online presence, and it's been good. I mean, we've gotten positive feedback from what we've done with that. The online process has helped. We're still working to move towards the electronic application. I made an inquiry this week, and there were some people out of town, so we weren't able to get a closure on that. But I wanted to bring special emphasis to that. And then also number 10, create an engaging video. We rolled out 5 new recruiting videos that were prepared by the Terrell ISD communications and video group, and they did fantastic. I don't know if you saw them, but if you need to, they're all posted on our Facebook. I rolled one out each week, the 5 weeks prior to our test, hoping that would drum up some additional interest. So be sure and take a look at those. I think you'll find that they did a fantastic job. This is just one of the examples. This is the background screen that pops up when they do the voiceover at movie theater. Sir?
Film Alley.
Thank you, Film Alley. Completely fell out of my head. So, that's just the background that pops up on the screen, but this is a cute little picture, and many of y'all know Officer Starr. He's one of our honorary officers, so we use him in our recruiting process. I just want to remind you, this is not a statement you've seen before, but I thought it was extremely important. Law enforcement agencies across the United States are struggling to recruit and hire police officers and other staff members through agency-specific needs, though agency-specific needs exist depending on the size of the locale. The difficulty with recruitment is a significant problem that is broadly affecting the field of law enforcement. It is not simply a result of poor agency management or localized failures. So, we're working through that list. It's being and showing us great success. But just to understand, we are up against the wall. It is hard to recruit people in this line of work right now. So it's important to draw that parallel from that it's not just that we're not doing it right, it's that everybody is struggling. Everybody's having a hard time trying to get through this. So how do we kick? Same slide I showed you last year, folks. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. If you want to get quality applicants at all fields and all levels of the police department, you have got to maintain the salary and the benefit leadership of the county and the region. Now, I realize there are other big agencies that we don't necessarily compete with, but we should absolutely be at the top of the game in this county. Streamlining the application process. I have been screaming this for a long time. It's extremely important. The applicant of today does not want to see a website with a crooked scan of something they have to print off, take home, and fill out by hand. They want something that they can go online, they can fill it out on their phone, on their laptop, on their Chromebook. They want something that they can go in electronically and get it done and submit it electronically. We've got to get that fixed. That's got to be done. The aggressive advertising and increased funding helped. Mr. Sim gave me a few $100s, and it made a huge difference. Just a few $100. Expanding community partnerships and referrals. we get a lot more people involved in law enforcement because they know somebody. Somebody recommended them. Somebody told them about the police department. So keep that process up. We still need to consider offering some employee recruiting incentives. While we only had 2 referrals this time, I think the number last time, if I recall right, was 6. You know, that's 2.5 times, you know, almost 3 times what we had this time. So I think it would benefit us if we had some type of an offering to other employees, you know, a day off, you know, a bonus if they complete the process, something that we should consider. And I think you guys maybe should discuss that and kick that around and come up with some good ideas, but there are several options. And then the numbers. This is only for police, but if you look, this is the breakdown of what it costs to put a cop on the street. It's not a small number. You know, we use the example of 2 because that's what we've been told that we're going to get. I circled this on the bottom line because I don't know how well y'all can see it on your screens. On my screen, it's difficult to see. $219,484. That's for 2 cops. That's everything but a vehicle, and you don't get into the vehicles till you get 3 or 4, and then you'll have to start applying the vehicles. So I'll talk a little bit more about the fleet here in just a few minutes. I think that might be it for me. Oh, we just want to recognize the fact that we are still partnering with education outlets. We are partnering with Bill Blackwood in Leamet down in San Marcos. They're one of the premier law enforcement agencies that trains police chiefs across not only just Texas but across the country. Texas A&M, we heavily promote the program that I just recently graduated from. They have a bachelor's program. It's a competency-based program. We've got members of the department that are enrolled in that program now. Very, very good program. We have graduates of the FBI National Academy. So those things are important to us. Education is important. Building leadership's qualities and skills, you know, not just in the command staff, y'all. 258 years of experience is fixed to walk out the door. We got to train the babies. We got to train the people in the middle. And we have to make sure our command staff knows what we're doing and is able to mentor and bring those people up. So we have to put an emphasis on this, benefiting from the existing education programs. We got to do it. That's you.
He probably needs a little more practice doing presentations, don't you think? Good job. Just to go back, in 1993, I started here with no idea what police work was. I didn't even know what Terrell was. I just saw you were looking for cops, and I needed a job. And he was one of my training officers. So he was an FTO at the time, and he trained me. And a chief's job is to take little newbies and to mold them into police, and then to take those patrolmen and mold them into sergeants, and sergeants into lieutenants, and lieutenants into captains, and a captain into an assistant chief, and then somebody to take over. You know, my goal is to be able to walk out and he can run this department. Now, whether you choose him or not is up to you, but that's the whole idea, and that's the structure of the organizational model, is that the agency continues if something were to happen to me, be it retirement or whatever, okay? And we've worked a long time getting it there. And we're gonna lose some key people, but we got a lot of youngsters coming up that we can mold and model and continue the process. So let's talk about community relations. That was one of the goals. Obviously, Terrell Police Department has always worked to partner with the community. Way back many years ago, I think in the 1700s, Norman Vincent Peale said the police are paid citizens to do what all citizens need to do, but they're paid to do it. They're the only ones paid to do it. So the police are the public are the police. We're not any different, and we need those community partners in order to solve crimes. You can't do it by ourselves, and that's always been important for us to keep that going. One is the Terrell Citizens Police Academy. Get on the right slide here. There you go. We did it years ago. It went by the wayside for some time. We brought it back. We This is our third class. Those are citizens from all over Terrell who have taken our class, who we've gotten to know as people, not just policemen, but as people, as neighbors. And they get to know us, and they have a strong relationship with us, and that helps when we go out in the community and we see those people and talk to them, and we can get information about what's going on, or who may have done it, or things like that, that builds that trust. So that's very important for us. And we also have an actively formed alumni association, which helped us get a dog. We'll talk about that in a minute. They are our ambassadors to the public. Objective change in support of community relations as part of our FTO training program. What we are implementing with our new recruits, that they will be required to attend a council meeting. They'll be required to meet you guys. They'll be required to attend a chamber meeting, board meetings, civic group organizations, go out and meet our faith-based community leaders, and maintain a strong social media presence, display transparent open communications, and timely and professional responses. We want them to get out and meet the public. We don't want them to grow up in a car driving by and just waving at people. We want them to get out and be active. We want them to know who you guys are. And that is going to be implemented this next training phase. De-escalation, our state maintains mandates, and this has been going on for some time now. This isn't a new thing. 8 hours training in de-escalation per recruit in the academy or within 2 years of the licensing date, 40 hours of civilian interaction training, deaf and hard of hearing impaired training, canine encounters. That's not a canine like our police canine encounter. That's like your dog. When we go on a call and you have your dog there, there's actually a class that teaches police how to deal with that. That doesn't involve shooting the dog, okay? All members are current except for one, and he is scheduled for all those trainings. In 22 and 23, there was 184 hours of de-escalation and civil interaction training, civilian interaction training with the police department. Community-oriented policing. Mr. Sims and I have talked about this. It's not so much a class you go take, it's a philosophy. It's how your organization thinks. It's how they react. It's not a school, if that makes any sense to you. So when we're looking for officers and we get people who pass the test and come in for our interview, several of the things are listed there that we're looking for: critical thinking, sound judgment, problem solving, communication skills, interpersonal skills, strong moral character, ethics, compassion, empathy, and respect. That's a big one, especially empathy. I don't want a machine out here doing police work. I want a person who can empathize with your situation, and that empathy may help solve whatever that problem is. Devotion to community, strong interactive perseverance, ability to negotiate and rationalize. Taking a person to jail is not always the answer. Giving a person a citation isn't always the answer. And I want my officers to be able to make those decisions and understand when those differences are differences. Even-tempered, composure, stressful situations, patience, tolerance, teamwork. That's kind of what we're looking for with a new guy. And going through our interview process, going through our psychological evaluations to go through, and then going through that 17 weeks of being with a field training officer. That's some of the stuff that field training officer is looking for. Is this a good fit? Has this guy got anger issues? Is there something going on here that we need to be concerned about before we let him go onto the street or dismiss him completely? Oh, you're back, Arlie. I'm gonna let Arlie talk about cars because that's what he handles.
I'm excited about the fleet. We have struggled for years to keep good wheels under our cops. We had cars that had 120, 130,000 miles on them. They weren't safe. They weren't pursuit rated any longer. Moving to the system that we have now, where we're leasing vehicles, the bomb. Cops are driving brand-new cars. The mileage on these cars is rolled at under 50,000, so a cop's never going to be driving a car with incredibly high miles on it. All of these cars are professionally maintained on a more regular basis, and now we've even enhanced that. So just for perspective, we have 19 marked units, 18 unmarked units. The most exciting part of this presentation for me is the fact that we have moved to a 3-year plan that will allow every single member of the police sworn staff to have a home assigned take-home vehicle. That is a huge draw for trying to bring people into the agency. People will say, oh, wow, that's a benefit. And it is, because it benefits the city in the fact that it keeps the mileage down on the cars. It benefits the city in the fact that it keeps the hours off the cars, because now hours seems to be more important than just miles. It's the number of hours, especially with patrol vehicles. So a lot of these vehicles, before we started making some changes and redirecting some actions on how we did things, some of these cars ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never turned off. Never turned off. And so you can't have that. I mean, it's that simple. You just can't put that kind of wear and tear on a vehicle. So moving to a program that we started with days and night shifts. So at least it got a rest. If we work a 4-day on and 3-day off, that vehicle would only be driven on the days, would only be driven on the nights. So we were giving them a half break. Well, we've managed to find another way to make that into a quarter break. So by assigning that vehicle to an individual that is able to take that vehicle home, he's going to take better care of it, he's going to keep it clean, he's going to maintain it, he's responsible for keeping up with when the inspection's out, when the registration's out, when does it need to be serviced again. Hey, these are my tires I'm driving on. I need to make sure that I have my vehicle taken care of. So it increases the maintenance capabilities of the vehicles astronomically in that regard. But the most important part is that now it's a quarter use. So these vehicles that we're leasing, now we can keep them longer. We don't have to go into a higher price lease that's going to require us to get rid of them earlier. We can go higher on the miles now because they're not being driven as hard and not being driven as often. So look at today's numbers. Today, 9 patrol officers have an assigned home storage vehicle. That is 9 more than had it last week. That's improvement. For the fiscal year 2024, we will move to 13 patrol officers having an assigned take-home storage vehicle. 25, 16 officers, and final, in 26, all 24 officers will have access to either a vehicle that's specifically assigned only to them and they're the only one that drives it, or a vehicle that's assigned that they can take home. We implemented a 30-mile range on this. We used the industry standard. Most of the agencies that do have take-home programs allow them to drive 30 miles, but no further. And you understand that. It doesn't do any good if a guy lives 140 miles away and you give him a take-home car, you're not really saving anything. So by putting a limit on that, that gives us a little bit more control over how much wear and tear is getting on the vehicle. Now, you're not putting a hard wear and tear when it's a daily, commute. So we kept the number at 30, and that's a reasonable number. I got that information from the Garland Police Department. That's what they do. We've had officers that actually had to park their vehicles at our station because we were as far as the limit would allow them to go. It's still a benefit to the employee. It's still of great benefit to the city. So thank you for letting us do that. Canine. I don't know if you know me, I love animals. See, I've got 13 cows, 14 chickens, 3 turkeys, a dog, and a cat. But I've always had a passion for the canines. I've always had a lot of interest in that. I trained all my own dogs. I had the benefit of having a trainer that came to me and taught me how to train, and that was exciting. So when we finally got a canine program back in the 90s, I was excited about it. I just didn't qualify to be involved in it. During the years, I went through the promotional method, and so I was not eligible to be in the canine program, but I was highly involved when we got our last canine. I helped with the animal selection. I helped with some of the training. It was instrumental in helping us get that program up and running. Myself and one of their officers put the proposal together that was finally approved. So big passion of mine is the canine, and I'm pleased to say that we are now back in the canine business. We secured a $10,000 donation in December of 2022 and a second donation of $10,000 in January of 23. They have given us a future commitment to be discussed, so we may be getting another round of those probably in about the same time frame because it kind of coincides with the tax season, I think, maybe. Good strategy there. We've already selected our canine officer, R.J. Waters. Many of you met him last week here at the council meeting. The course that he'll be attending is June the 5th. That's about an 8-week course, and then he and I will go down a couple of weeks prior to that, make sure we have all the equipment that's necessary. We'll pick out our animal. They have a selection of dogs, and so basically how this works is when you go in, they're going to say, okay, these are the 6 dogs that are ready. And so they'll show the dog off for you. They'll show you kind of what it is. You're looking for drive. You're looking for health and consistency. You're looking for, is he just a good fit with the handler? You know, some dogs just don't fit with certain people. And so you'll be able to try those animals out and kind of make a selection on that. A lot of it has to do with you know, what we're interested in an animal. If we're using, in our particular situation, we're going to be having a patrol dog, which does multiple things. So it has to fit all that criteria. So it has to be able to do narcotics. It has to be able to do patrols, searches, has to be able to do, you know, searching for items and people. So it's really important that you pick the right animal on that. So I'm not gonna let my fingers out of that. I'm gonna stay heavily involved in that because I think it's important that we get the right dog. But the exciting part is that we're back in the canine business. We appreciate the major donations that we got and look forward to expanding that hopefully next year when we get the opportunity. So we are back in the canine business, and that is a really good thing. That would be you, boss.
Trivia fact. Deputy Chief Sampson was a member of Terrell Police Department's Mounted Patrol Unit.
1991.
Mm-hmm. All right, flock safety cameras. We have, as I said, one deployed in Stallings on Reynolds. One is going to go on Temple that will check all the traffic that goes in and out. The one on Temple is delayed because of the construction project. We just got permission to put it on a telephone pole there, which it'll be installed next couple of weeks, I'm guessing. We are looking at a crossroads project to be funded by public improvement districts. Mr. Sims would have to speak to that. The map that's in the presentation is a recommendation from Flock as to where cameras could be placed that would capture all traffic in that area. That can certainly change. The number could be lessened or increased or moved as we would determine, but that's just where they recommend it.
So just to kind of flesh that out, there are 3 public improvement districts in this area. One is on the Bucky side of FM 148, and then one is on the, I guess I would call it the Academy down through Film Alley zone. And then the third one is as you go over to the 2 rezoning cases that we had today, where we were looking at the new apartment complex, and then the new Cadillac dealership, and then the new hotel event center. So those 3 public improvement districts, what we're doing now, we had talked about, gosh, can we get these deployed? Can we get these things out and about? We think we can do that through our public improvement districts and splitting the cost amongst those 3. I'm doing a little budget analysis on that right now, and we hope to be able to move forward on that maybe nearer term than just waiting for FY24. But we'll have that item come back to you soon.
This is a actual picture from our flock camera that's it's on Gardner Street. It captures the back or front of the vehicle as it comes by, and one of the big complaints in Stallings is 18-wheeler traffic. That's an 18-wheeler. And what you can do with the flock system is I can go in there and select a date range, and I can just click the box that says 18-wheeler, and it will pull up any picture of an 18-wheeler that went by the camera. This one, it gives you the date that it went by, and it gives you the license plate. I blanked it out just because it's a public meeting, so anyway, we can track that down and give them a holler and say, why are you driving through our neighborhood? But he just gives you an example of what that looks like.
I'm sorry, also to mention on the flock cameras, we have the same analysis going in the downtown area, and that item will get presented to the Park and Downtown Improvement Corporation for their consideration. So that's the other part of it that is a attempt at a creative funding strategy there.
That brings us to animal control. Talk about that for just a minute here. Okay, some of the previous goals for animal control, major upgrades to current building. Some have been completed, some are still pending. We upgraded AC and heating. We closed the outdoor kennels in, installed some exhaust fans, installed some exterior lighting upgrades. I think we made some improvements to the interior as far as sprucing it up and some electrical and fire extinguishers and whatnot. As it is today, it still will not pass inspection. So we'll still have to deal with that. We also had a goal to budget to rent space that we've looked at out on the west end of town. If we are able to move into that or make that happen, we can certainly alleviate some of those problems. One of our goals from years past was to partner with Kaufman County. That didn't work out. There's no room. They don't have an agreement to take our dogs. They don't want an agreement to take our dogs. So that has not been a working solution for us. Let's see, 6.3. Additional staff or contract workers to fill in current gaps in services, that is on hold. We are actually looking for an additional animal control officer. Additional staff to manage wildlife, feral hogs, equipped, purchase, and deployed. That's also on hold because we don't have the staff yet. As many of you know, we do have a feral hog problem in town. We have one animal control officer who's licensed and trained to deal with that. And if he could literally do that job just full time, much less having to chase dogs. So our 24 for 26 goals obviously is facility improvement, and we've talked about that. A new facility or revamping a current facility. Did you just, okay, no, you're good. Currently studying feasibility of relocating current animal control facility to a new location. New location would allow for future growth of our animal control capacity for many years with the space that's out there. Staffing needs, as we explore the need to relocate our current facility to a larger facility that will serve the city's needs into the future, we'll also need to restructure staffing to better manage a new facility. One of the things we're looking at is reclassifying our ACO supervisor to a manager's position to allow him to better manage a larger facility and improve services. That would also create a more senior animal control warden to provide daily services, and then additional staff as needed. One thing we would be definitely looking at is volunteers. The current shelter does not make itself attractive to volunteers. You really have to want to volunteer to go out there and volunteer. A new facility with lots of room and space and would certainly make volunteerism much more achieving, and we'll need to increase those numbers in order to take care of a larger space. So that's something we'll be looking at. And then I think our last slide is there have been some discussion and talks with Southwest Christian College about a police academy. The idea is that if they offered a criminal justice degree that might benefit Terrell High School students that could maybe get dual credits, go through their program, come out with a criminal justice degree, and then enter into a police academy that they would have on their facility. That would be great for Terrell. It would give us a source of our own homegrown police officers. So we have looked at that. I think there's a plan to visit Lincoln University in Missouri, who actually currently runs a police academy with a similar college. Set up meetings with the HBCU in Washington, D.C. We'll have to help either through working with or giving suggestions to SWCC to begin a criminal justice program out there. And then I guess if that actually goes to fruition, there's some talk about remounting Bowser Street to actually build a building out there.
Yeah, so I would just say there's a lot of steps necessary to get a police academy at Southwestern Christian College. One is you've got to have the physical space to do it. We already plan to realign Bowser in order to facilitate the Quiet Zone project, and that actually helps give us the room, the space, the circulation necessary to run a full-scale police academy. And then the other one is it's a state requirement under the TCLOS program that if it's going to be run through a community college has to have a criminal justice program. So they actually literally have to create the criminal justice program first. And so those are two major next steps in that effort, but I think it's real key for us. And as Chief said, it's a great goal for us to try to achieve, to get the school to create a pipeline, the high school to create a pipeline to an HBCU that can then also train police officers. And we believe in that goal, and we're just going to keep working on it.
All right. Chief, I want to thank you for your presentation, and Assistant Police Chief Sanson for your being here this evening. Council, if you would, review that document on the strategic plan. If you have any questions, please reach out to Mike or the police chief. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. At this time, we can consent all items can be considered for one motion to enact. This would be resolution number 2065. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Andrea Reese, District 5, a second from Grady Simpson, District 2, to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous consent of those present. Next on the agenda is receive Terrell Police Department February 2023. I'd ask that the council look at those and reach out to Mr. Sims if you have any questions. Also on the item to receive Star Transit ridership reports, review that information and reach out to Mr. Sims if you have any questions. At this time, we are going to adjourn. Thank you all.